Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein,
Yes.
It left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency.
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, why would I stand, Judge?
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. Are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this.
You serious?
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in with me, providing a choreographed dance routine to the intro as usual. 1 week delayed for his monthly appearance. Our friend you can be named Quite, that's fine. Our friend Frank from Quite Frankly. Let's try again.
Good evening. Good evening. It's a good walking song. It's got a good walking pace.
That's right.
Dude. I feel like you have to walk bow-legged as well.
Quite frankly.tv to find the show weeknights, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome back, Frank. And for discussion tonight, what could we possibly talk about? Now, I know you've talked about this plenty, but I still would like to hear your thoughts on the, I guess, maybe the greatest magic act of all time, the great Epstein list disappearance. You know, I don't know. We thought they had pulled it out of the top hat. Instead, it remains, I don't know, somewhere forever under the rug or whatever. But anyway, especially the cabinet meeting on Monday, man.
I didn't know if you were still priming us for the subject matter. Do you want me to say something?
We will get into it in a minute because
okay,
I'm still doing the intro. Unless you want to jump right into it. We can skip the intro if you want.
No. Keep going.
Right. We'll get into it in a moment. Search and rescue efforts continue after the Texas flood. This was another thing I saw this week. I thought, that's a Frank thing. Saving that for Frank. Did they cloud seed some of the flooding? The guy's denying it, and I don't know, I am not an expert on the science of cloud seeding, but it is, I don't know. I don't know if I buy the denial either. So I'll see what you think about it. And then breaking just this morning, Douglas Mackey, the meme convict, formerly known as Ricky Vaughn on X, back then Twitter, nearly imprisoned for telling everyone to vote Hillary by text and tweet in 2016. Just won his case on appeal. My understanding is it's dead. It's over now. He's not going to prison. No prison for him after all. So I got to get into that a little bit too. Matt Palumbo will stop by after Frank is finished, and we'll take your calls and emails to close the show. And remember, if you'd like to call the show, you can do that through the Discord server. Linked in the description, there are instructions and help available on the server. Of course, we'll catch up with your super chats as well before we're out.
And also with your stupid chats as well.
Stupid chats? What's that about?
Super chats and stupid chats.
You have stupid chats?
That's what the people send me.
Oh, I was unaware. You have rebrand. Do they have any special function, or do you just have a particular brand of idiot in your audience?
No. It's just, I don't know. We just rebranded it. It's okay. Everything. The stupid chats.
All right, cool. We'll go with that. If you have any stupid chats, we'll happily catch up with those too. Now, Frank, obviously, I know that you're aware, and most people are, so I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but just in case you haven't seen the news this week, it actually happened on Sunday during my stream, and one of my chatters broke the news to me, and at the time, it was just in tweet form, and it was something like, breaking, DOJ says Epstein killed himself, and there is no client list. And I thought, well, I already knew they thought that he killed himself because we heard Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and company say that. But what do you mean no client list? Because, of course, we've been hearing about this from Pam Bondi for weeks and months. Just wait, the truckload is in the garage, and it's all on her desk. Okay, but they put out a memo, a page and a half, as though this is going to convince anybody on Sunday night. It's not even dated. It's just dated generically July.
Very weird. Very weird.
Yeah. And right there. I mean, point one, there is no incriminating client list, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed anybody as part of his antics. And then, we looked into it. He definitely killed himself. And he did that, as everybody has said, August 10th, 2019. And then they also provided a link to the video, like 10 or 11 hours worth of video with 1 minute subtracted. Everybody had questions about that. Pam Bondi's got an explanation for that. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment. But before we get to the cabinet meeting on Monday, which is almost more insane than this memo to me, I invite your general thoughts on what's going on here.
Well, the triple whammy, obviously. No client list, which we can talk about what that even means. What was the nature of Epstein's business? Was he really just a buyer and seller of young people for sexual depravity? Or was it something else? If you talk to people like Jason Burmis, he will hammer home that this at the crux of all of this stuff is major arms dealing as well. But also I've not heard that actually. Epstein
involved in arms dealing? What's that about?
Well, that's definitely where the Prince Andrew side of things really kicks up. A lot of arms dealing going on there. And then there is also just keeping the basic hierarchy of the power structure in place. There is a blackmail element to this. There is a honeypot element to this. Everybody plays the game. Everybody knows that they are able to get access to these vices, to these privileges, and to do what they do and to operate in the way that they do. And it's all on tape. And they have their own stuff too. It is mutually assured destruction across the board for the most part. Some people are more important than others. Some people have more leverage than others. Therefore, when people like Epstein become a lot more of a liability than usual, it's acceptable to remove their piece from the board by any means necessary. Some people believe that he's not even dead, but his piece has been removed from the board. The official story is he's dead. We can talk about how he died or whether or not he actually is dead somewhere, but that's it. So the fact that there is no client list, which means there's no known associates, nobody that he, palling around with and working his magic with on a daily basis, network contacts, point men, bag men, women, all that stuff. There's none of that stuff. He definitely was not. He was not collecting and dealing in blackmail. There was no blackmail element to this at all. And I mean, what the fuck are we? What are we supposed to do with this? And that right there is leaked. Is leaked to Axios in the middle of.
Is that how it came out? The DOJ didn't formally release it. It got to Axios.
Axios published it first, and then they deleted it, and then they republished it under a different author, if I remember correctly. It was very strange. Okay. What the hell happened?
I mean, it's up on the Justice Department website now, of course, but I was not aware that it actually appeared somewhere else originally.
That's all I caught of it, and honestly, whether no matter where the hell it appeared, the one thing I wanted to know, and I had to hold out to make sure of was. Is this real? Like you said, there's no date. It doesn't look like official letterhead. It just looks so basic, bitch. It's unreal. There's no signature. Yeah. There's nothing. So for the most part, I'm sitting back and I'm just saying, all right, I'm just waiting for somebody to say, oh, no. It's a forgery. It was AI generated. There was a couple of typos in there or whatever the hell else. And the claims that it's making are absolutely absurd. I mean, just based on what Donald Trump has provided to lawyers like Brad Edwards in the past, or who Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are prior to their being brought on in an official capacity at the FBI, the inside sources that they had been touting, both in the media and elsewhere over the years, that they have gone as far as not only talking about the true nature of Epstein, but even talking about restricted subjects like Israel and their management role in so much of what's going on there. These are the lengths that those two guys in particular were willing to go to when they were just out there in the media running their own shows and being honest with their audiences. And then we get this weird letter. We get that incredible drop of surveillance footage from the DOJ, and then yesterday's press conference. So, I mean, up until the press conference, I laughed in disbelief. And then at the press conference, I was absolutely mortified, and I just wanted to throw up for a little bit. But then,
yeah, well, whatever alternative explanation you may be theorizing about, like you said, was this some kind of fake? Is this a joke? Clearly not, based on the commentary from both Trump himself and Pam Bondi. Now, Bondi, maybe I'm less bothered by because this is right on Bondi brand at this point. I've seen it so many times. But if people missed, Trump ripping this reporter for asking about what is ostensibly an official DOJ release as though it is inappropriate. Like, why do you care about this sort of thing? This is one of those where I almost can't believe what I'm watching, but here was the moment.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration.
He's acting like it was brought out of nowhere, which, by the way, it's a significant news story on its own. I don't think really any time since what happened with Epstein in 2019 is an inappropriate time to ask about Epstein. But again, this comes on the heels of your DOJ releasing an official document with what I guess are final findings on the topic, and you got the Attorney General, the perfect person to take that question right there. How is this an inappropriate thing to ask? Or an irrelevant thing to ask?
And you talk about desecration. It was released. You could say it was leaked. It was released on a Sunday.
That's also weird. Like Sunday night.
Also very weird in the middle, right in the height of all of the search and rescue operations that are going on in Texas.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about desecration. A lot of people, just because the timing of this thing, could very well assume and they would be valid in doing so, that all of the craziness that was going on with the loss of life in Texas and elsewhere was a way of, kind of taking the sting off of this ridiculous pronouncement from the Department of Justice. And you always remember, back in 2015, 2016, when this guy, when Trump was debating people and he was going out and people were asking about Epstein back then, I mean, he was very forthright in talking about how people like the Clintons are it's going to be a problem for them. Like he knew. I mean, he knows that there was clients that were former presidents. He knows that there were very, very I mean, this guy, Epstein bragged about being the brainchild. I mean, not the brainchild, the mastermind, or one of one of the architects of the Clinton Global Initiative. I mean, you want to talk about massive success. One of the things that people voted for. Hey, and still going forward, if I get some tax relief, if I see massive amounts of illegal aliens deported, which also counts as far as financial relief goes, I'm going to say thank you kindly to everything good that comes along forward. I'm not going to throw it all out with the bathwater because of this, even though it turns my stomach. I'll still say thank you kindly for allowing me to keep every dollar of mine that maybe I can recover in some way, shape, or form. But the other thing that everybody really voted for was retribution, legal retribution. We would love to see We would love to live vicariously through Donald Trump to see him exact revenge on people who weaponize the entire system to bring him down. But we also want to see these scumbags get taken down for what they did to us, not only just through, COVID and stuff, but for years before that. And you know what? Jeffrey Epstein is not just one guy with a penchant for young kids who likes to hang out at his island in the Caribbean. Okay, he is a portal to an underworld. He is a portal to a place where we know the government behind the government exists. And that's what people pray for. And maybe in some kind of a way that, we're naive, but every once in a while there's a chance at a chance, and we just hope that we roll the dice and we win big. And that's what that was all about. It was like, you're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, this creep? No, I'm talking about the network of creeps behind the creep. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm sure everybody else is too.
Yeah, and of course, for him to say, again, the story it stands on its own, but for him for Donald Trump to say, why do you care about this? Well, I also care about it because your hire for Attorney General has been hyping it for weeks and months. Like, why do I care about? Why does she care about it? And why do you employ her as the lead of your Justice Department if I'm not supposed to? But that was only half the exchange, was just Trump kind of ripping this reporter in a way that he often does, but in a way that is so disconnected from the facts and I think just the political will of the people that it really seems off. And then you got Pam Bondi actually answering the questions that the reporter presented, or at least, the Bondi version of the answers.
In February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
Now, Frank, did you see that the missing minute is already out? Have you seen that yet?
No.
It has been published. It's circulating Twitter right now, and so they did cut the part out that it's kind of important, I think, but.
It's funny about this. I said this last night because I didn't have that video, but I had a still frame that had Hillary Clinton in frame as well. Yeah. And I love it because the AI generation of her has her posture down so good.
Everything about it, like the shape of her body. If you told me this was real, it's like one of the last times you were on when I told you I was tricked by the Epstein files dance because it looked legit, the AI animation. This is really, really good. However this was made.
The thing I love most about it is the idea that this was not a job she was going to pass off to anybody. She was going to do it herself.
She's been working on her grip strength, and she's going to strangle that guy. Yeah.
I know, absolutely. But back to Pam Bondi, phase one, that was the most embarrassing thing. We probably talked about it together. Phase one.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the phases. Phase two is there are no more phases.
They're out there. You have all these people from Twitter out there holding up these binders like they're trophy fish, and it was recycled garbage. So phase one was recycled garbage, and phase two was there is no phase two.
Yeah.
And listen, if Trump, it's I've had people get in touch with me who just like they still are in support. They want Trump to do well, but after this, they're like this thing in particular is irreconcilable.
Well, I wonder. I mean, I know you mentioned like for you, this is not necessarily a deal breaker insofar as obviously there are family pocketbook things that are more important to many voters, and that's totally understandable. But I've seen a lot of people on X saying this is going to lose midterms. This is going to be damaging for the next Republican presidential candidate. A lot's going to happen between now and then, but there's no doubt that if you can't, if this was untrustworthy. I suppose the people that have been hyping this and selling this and people that were at least somewhat voted in for this reason, if they're just going to turn around and pretend like nothing ever happened, I don't blame anyone who becomes pretty black-pilled on something like this, where it's like, why would I participate in this? Where there's the realistic understanding that there are practical considerations for politicians. They can't wave every magic wand and do everything that they're elected to do. There are obstacles in their way for good reason. This is not that, though. This is not like my congressman went to Washington and couldn't filibuster hard enough to stop that bill. These are the people in charge of the Federal Department of Justice. They have all the documents in-house that they claim to have seen themselves. That's the other piece. You mentioned it's not just the phases. It's like people reference seeing things all the time. Elon Musk, just a few weeks ago, Trump's in the Epstein files. Has Elon Musk seen files? Could he come out and clarify? What did he make it up? Was it just a drug bender? I would like to know what that meant. But if not these people now win, I guess is the question for your average voter. And who has a good answer for that? I guess the answer is never.
I guess the answer, well, that's what the memo seeks to put in place. And, I think that is just the most upsetting part of Trump's response to the thing, because he didn't show, as a person who has been very close to the issue in the past, as being, somebody who volunteered information about a guy that he had already banned from his own clubs and knows about, past presidents and first ladies who have had close relations with them, and understanding what's going on here. And not only that, but in Trump 1.0, bringing in Alex Acosta as the labor secretary, who was part of the FBI investigation, the real one, again, is that we don't have anything on. There's nothing here. Oh, there isn't? Well, can you just show us all of the stuff you already did in Operation Leap Year? Can you just show us the multi-state investigation that was scuttled at the last minute when Alex Acosta and his friends were told from some source that was higher than the FBI that it all needed to go away? This was already a major federal investigation that was sweeping up his operations in New York, his genetic craziness that was going on in New Mexico, Florida, and the Caribbean. That was already done. I mean, just tell us what was in operation. What did you find in Leap Year? And this is stuff that is on the record. And I think it was just most disconcerting to me to hear Trump play like annoyed that what we were given accidentally, supposedly, in the middle of a Sunday wasn't good enough to silence everybody's curiosity a mere 36 hours later. Like, what?
Yes, this is the most convincing page and a half PDF I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I mean, anyway, I want to leave a little bit of time for the cloud seeding issue. And I know if we keep going on Epstein, we'll be here an hour from now. Not that I don't appreciate it, but I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to invite your thoughts on this one. Of course, we know what's going on in Texas with the flooding, and we now have the CEO of a weather modification company, a company that conducts cloud seeding, saying he did some cloud seeding, but denying it had any role in the rainfall or the flooding. Frank, I know that you're probably more well-versed in some of these topics than I am, but can you just give me an explanation for what cloud seeding or weather modification more generally is?
Yeah, well, with the cloud seeding, you essentially have these companies now. I mean, this was done. Actually, they've been seeding clouds since the 19th century. Somebody you should really have on your show is like Jim Lee, climateviewer.com. He came on the show for a few minutes the other night to talk about this guy, this Augustus guy, because on Saturday night, he had an hour and a half interview with this guy at the height of his panicking, because, of course, everybody is blaming him for what was going on in Kerrville. And to what degree he may have contributed to it, I don't know. He admitted to doing some spraying north of that area on July 2nd, but not on the 3rd and the 4th.
Yeah.
And there was the fragments of two storms already moving in, but the issue is that there's the seeding. Essentially what you want to do is you put these certain molecules in the air, if it's like silver or whatever the hell else, these little molecules. I can't get into the chemical composition of it, but you put them up at a certain in certain conditions where there's already a little bit of moisture, a little bit of something that it could latch onto. If it's totally dry, then you have an issue. It needs something where moisture can collect and create clouds and rain. And for a long time, this has been very well-known technology for people who want to make sure that crops are watered. We have found ways of weaponizing that in the past. Not only did we flood certain places of the world whenever we needed to, but we also have cloud seeded to starve certain people of their water. For example, we were
You can do it in reverse. You can stop the rain in that way.
Yeah, we were flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam, Operation Popeye. That's very well known stuff there too. But on the opposite side of that, we were also taking away water from Castro in Cuba for his sugar crops. We're trying to kill his sugar crops by getting all of the rain to really dump off the coast in places where he couldn't. It would not be beneficial to him. So this stuff has just been around for so long. And in a commercial sense, it's really not that controversial in that respect. But when something like this happens and trillions of gallons of water comes down, he's in a no-win situation. This kid, I don't know how much he actually caused, but just because he was in the area spraying, it's like only like something like 60 grams of one thing or another, and you create some rain. But
I want to play a little clip of just what he had to say about it and some NBC News analysis of it, trying to tell you that you're not supposed to think that A has anything to do with B, which makes me think that A has something to do with B. I don't want to be skeptical of younger people by default, but without a lot of knowledge on this, I'm looking at this guy who looks all of like 20 years old with a mullet, and I'm thinking, how are you allowed to do this? There ought to be a law, damn it.
The CEO of a weather modification company confirmed that planes in Texas did release silver iode into the atmosphere 2 days before the floods. But he also explained why he says scientifically it does not mean that the two events are connected.
We're talking about like sub-centimeter amounts of precipitation, be it in snow or rain from every event, which in aggregate can mean hundreds of acre feet, which is very consequential for farmers and ecosystems, but cannot come close to causing flooding unto itself.
Basically what they do is they fly planes up there to give the water vapor something to grab onto. So it's a combination of silver iodide and salt, actually. And so the water vapor forms around that. Eventually it gets heavy enough and then falls to the surface of rain. We're talking really small amounts of rain. In fact, scientists have been debating for decades whether or not this is actually very effective to do. So even when it does work, Gotti, we're not talking about a lot of rain, certainly not the amount of rain that they saw in Texas last week. This cloud seeding, it works within like 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, and then that's it. So that was done 2 days before. So the CEO saying this, other scientific research establishes that cloud seeding isn't going to trigger something like this, certainly not 2 days after they were doing it.
Well, see, trigger and contribute to are different things, though. It's like if you've got moisture in the air, building storms, and then you do this, isn't it possible that it enhances an existing rainfall or something? I guess my question for this guy, maybe he's answered it. I don't know that he hasn't. I've looked at some of his tweets and heard some of what he has to say, but he's saying that they stopped their cloud seeding operation a couple days before because there was so much moisture in the air already, which makes me wonder, well, why did you start it in the first place if there was so much moisture in the air already?
I don't know. Maybe it was just the job. The job that who knew? Maybe it was just something that was on the client end of things.
And who are the clients? Like, is it a government thing? Who hires for the cloud seeding?
I think that you could, as a farmer, I think just on the agricultural end, there are ways that you can almost like crop dusting. You can actually go and if it's in accordance with state law. And I think that the most amount of cloud seeding that is done in the most amount of cloud seeding that is done in the country is done in Texas. That's what I was talking about with Jim the other night. And I don't know. It could definitely contribute to things. We have talked about cloud seeding to be able to build up intensities of hurricanes, whether or not it could be used to chop the tops off of storms and have them die on the vine and save lives and save coastal properties, like what was going on down there with all the hurricanes in Louisiana and whatnot, and Katrina, and whether all that was necessary, if we had a chance to stop it all. Those are the larger conversations that build up to. Ultimately, the problem is we don't have any trust in people in government, and we don't trust the environmentalist nuts out there. I'm a conservationist myself. I actually want to see us take care of the world and clean up pollution and save wildlife and what. I think that it's a great thing, but that's not environmentalism. We've been beaten over the head with environmentalism from these technocrat lunatics for so long, and we naturally just do not think they have any good intentions, and that the technology to seed a cloud with really ridiculously small amounts of silver iodide substance or something like that, to be able to get some much needed rain on a patch of crops that otherwise would die or something like that. I mean, maybe there's a responsible use for that kind of technology, but of course it's all jaded now because we're just jaded. And I think that's what this guy said at the end of his talk with Jim Lee on Saturday night. He said he would like a lot more accountability just being in that line of work, because they want to be kept safe from anything. And also, if they do screw something up, if they do flood an area, if they do inject just a little bit too much inside of an atmosphere that was already naturally building up with a lot of juice, that they could be held accountable too. So he's in a tough spot, because who knows what he really did, how much it contributed to what happened and all the lives lost a couple of days later. But he was spraying in the area on July 2nd, and that's going to be enough for a lot of people to want his head. So that's just the predicament he's in.
Well, that's my friend Frank from Quite Frankly. QuiteFrankly.tv. You can find the show weeknights at 7 Eastern. Linked in the description for you as well. Anything else you want to mention before you're out of here, Frank?
No. I would say that I know that the world is not a perfect place, and you have a very busy fall coming up for you, Matt. But we just announced that we are having a Quite Frankly Jamboree. It is the first ever in-person event. It is a 2-night. Well, all the VIP tickets are already sold out, but on the events page on QuiteFrankly.tv, if you're anywhere in the tri-state area or in driving distance and you want to come out and hang out with so many of the familiar faces of the show and just have a great night of fantastic food and light entertainment and all that other stuff, love to have you there. I really wish that Matt Christiansen would be there with Lily. But, that's...
Unfortunately, as you were referencing, we've got a baby due a little later in the month, but our first was 3 weeks early. So our third actually has the exact same due date as our first. So the due date was September 22nd. Our first was born on September 2nd. So unfortunately, I cannot commit this year, but man, it would be cool. Or maybe in the future, we can organize some sort of get together out west for combined audiences or something like that. That might be fun too. But that's cool, man. It's this sort of in-person event where you get to meet people who listen to your product and people who contribute to it. I had one of my contributors just drive through town, moving from New York actually to northern Idaho. And so anytime you know someone fairly well on the internet and you get to meet them in person, it can be a lot of fun because, you realize they are a complete human figure. They aren't just a torso and a head or something like that. So,
it can also be a gigantic letdown.
I suppose. Keep your expectations low and you'll have a great night at the Quite Frankly Jamboree. All right,
I appreciate you having me back on again, man, and all the best to you, and have a wonderful evening.
Yes. Thank you for coming by, and I will see you next time, my friend.
Peace.
All right, there he goes. That's my friend Frank from Quite Frankly. Again, QuiteFrankly.tv, linked in the description. Let me go find Matt Palumbo, and I will be right back.
Stand back and stand by.
forgot about how risky this is because now we're going to have to place your mic live. What are we going to do? All right. Try that.
Is this good?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
All right. I'm going to stay glued to the floor.
Okay. I'll correct you if we have any problems. Anyway, before we take some calls, I wanted to talk with you about this Douglas Mackey appeals decision in his famous meme case. I don't know if you've had a chance to read about it at all, but this was...
Yes, I saw the news break on Twitter, and I didn't think he was going to end up actually serving jail time, which would have been absurd, but I didn't think it was going to get overturned. I think it was unanimously from what I read from Republican and Democrat judges. So it was clearly just trying to destroy a guy's life to send a message and try to intimidate everyone else.
Oh, yeah. To back this up and remind everyone what this case is, Douglas Mackey announced it this morning, formerly Ricky Vaughn, on Twitter or X, but way back in 2016. I don't have the memes handy. I should have prepped them, but he posted joke memes on back then Twitter under his account, which had a pretty decent following. And the premise was telling Hillary voters to vote by text or vote by tweet, which of course he can't do, but that's the joke. And it's a variation of the same joke that everybody makes every election year. Hey, my political opposition, why don't you wait until after election day to vote? That would be great. Har, har, har. For the DOJ to make this, Biden's DOJ, to make this into a some sort of criminal conspiracy, when in fact it is. I'm not taking a shot at Douglas. I like Douglas. He was on my Tenet show, and I hope that he'll come back to talk about this case. That said, this is like fundamentally a dressed up version of one of the most tired, lamest jokes ever. Like this is. He had a different version of it, which I don't know. Maybe some people. I think the biggest problem with it, if I had to steel man the other side, is I believe it used like official Hillary campaign.
They did do that. But here's the thing. It got less than 100 likes. And the whole premise would have to be that Hillary supporters are following Douglas Mackey on Twitter.
Yeah, but they love
and getting
Ricky
their
Vaughn,
election. Like, it's just so ridiculous. And I don't even know what would happen if you texted the number. I don't think the DOJ could. I think they proved that the number was texted, but they couldn't identify a single person who abstained from voting because they saw the meme. And I think it was double digits, if I'm not. It couldn't have been more than triple. Like, it was. I assume most of it was just right wingers themselves, like just for fun. Or
I've never seen the content of the text released. Maybe it's somewhere
didn't move the election
in the court docs.
Pretty sure.
But okay, and just to remind everybody, this is back in 2016. Okay, this is about Hillary's campaign. What happens? Trump gets elected. Obviously, the Trump DOJ doesn't care about this, nor should any DOJ, because making this a crime is preposterous. But fast forward 4 years, and Joe Biden is elected. Apply an asterisk on that if you wish, but he becomes president of the United States. And the new DOJ under Merrick Garland decides we have to go after Douglas Mackey for those Hillary memes, vote Hillary by text memes he posted 4 years ago. And so they got Mackey convicted based on charges they brought immediately when Biden came into office, convicted in 2023 using a post-Civil War era law designed to prevent people from physically blocking black people from voting. So through that, Mackey was sentenced to a prison term. Do you remember what the prison term was? It was something like
I think it was in the
6-7 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still ridiculous, but
he actually has been out of prison the entire time. He's not gone because he's been out of prison as his case has been appealed. And this morning he announced that the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has thrown out his conviction for lack of evidence.
I wonder the legal fees had to have been in the 50,000 plus at least, I'd assume, despite probably six figures given the length of this. I have no idea what his legal fees may or may not be. I know he's raised some money on GoFundMe or GiveSendGo or things like that, but yeah, you mentioned that the opinion from the 3-judge panel was unanimous. I don't know anything about these judges, but there are 3 of them, as you'll see, in an appeals court panel, and they all agreed, and they decided that they are going to reverse the conviction, send it back to the district court with an order to enter a judgment of acquittal. So it's over. I mean, not that you thought that Donald Trump's DOJ was going to be taking this case to the Supreme Court to seek justice against Meme Man. There's kind of a question of why was this even still pursued after Donald Trump was elected? There's an explanation for what's going on here, but
I want to stop at that description that Mackey has here for just a moment because it's an important one. The lack of evidence. What does that mean? He posted the memes, did he not? Yes, he did. What evidence is needed? Well, it actually was not a case fundamentally about free speech as a matter of law or like a question of whether he posted these things or not. And of course, it is on principle, and generally we talk about these things, and there's no doubt that the Biden DOJ went after him for his political views. I think that's anybody who denies that. All I have to do is refer you to all the many Biden or Hillary supporters who did the same thing in previous elections.
This means there was someone who had this bookmarked just in case 4 years down the line they could use it against him.
He was probably Joe Biden
Who
himself.
was that person? Like,
Jill,
it's just absurd to
Hunter.
think about. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, not Hunter. He was busy with other things. But anyway, okay, so what is the evidence that was lacking? Well, they charged and convicted and prosecuted, charged, prosecuted, convicted, whatever order it goes in. They got Douglas on the premise of running a conspiracy to deny the right to vote. And what is a conspiracy? I know we use that term to mean like kooky thoughts or weird opinions or suspicion that there are powers controlling everything in nefarious ways. In the context of the law, we're talking about an organization or an agreement among people. If you and I conspire,
You need multiple people, though.
right? But that's the problem is to get the conviction under this preposterously applied law. It had to have a conspiracy element. It had to have an agreement and organization among multiple people. And Mackey absolutely posted the memes. He'll tell you that. He doesn't deny it. But the idea that it was part of an organized effort among multiple people, specifically to dupe people out of their right to vote, that's what could not be proven. And so when the appeals court looked at this, it's very interesting. I mean, they actually didn't decide this on the law. They're deciding this on the facts, and the facts were not sufficient at the trial court. And so I don't have the quote from the judge here, but when they say lack of evidence, when the three-judge panel is saying lack of evidence, that's what they mean. There's little to no evidence that he actually worked with other people. The evidence of cooperating or conspiring or organizing with others, it's not there. Therefore, his conviction can't stand. And there's also the element of the continuing appeal in this case and the pardon, or the pardon that never happened. Another question is, why wasn't Douglas Mackey pardoned when January 6ers and other people were pardoned when Trump got into office? And it's sort of unclear. Maybe Trump would have pardoned Douglas Mackey. Douglas Mackey said at the time of Trump's second election that he didn't want to be pardoned, and a pardon can't apply if the recipient of the pardon doesn't want it. So why wouldn't Mackey want it? He didn't want it because he wanted to establish a precedent that would stop the use of this law from the sort of prosecution that was done to him. And I'm not clear if this is in terms of being a good broad precedent on this topic or not. I need to consult a wiser legal mind to get an opinion on that. But surface level reading, it would seem that this decision would make it harder to bring the sort of prosecution that Biden did, maybe it's just that Biden flat out did not have the facts and they just stretched too far.
He did repost the meme today after the acquittal.
Yes.
So good for him.
Was it banned on? I know his account was banned on X, the old guard Twitter. But
it was just a repost of the original. Like, I don't know. Is this old account still gone? I actually don't know.
I don't know if it was restored when Elon Musk took over or what happened to it. But the only account that I'm aware of that he operates now is this one, the Douglas Mackey case account.
Yes, that's the one. It was posted.
He must have posted it there, yeah.
Yes.
But the idea here, whether this changes any interpretation of the law or not, fundamentally, you're not just going to be able to call someone's activity a conspiracy because you don't like it and they once talked to a guy maybe very generally about some things that were going on, or maybe even they shared memes. So the approach that the Biden DOJ took in this case is hopefully will not be happening again. Now, I might dive into this case a little bit more on my own so I can understand it a little bit more thoroughly. And again, congrats to Douglas Mackey. It was cool to talk to him about a year ago. It was Christmas think it was Christmas 2023, or right around New Year's 24, that he was on my old Tenant show, and I hope he'll come back. But I know he's going to be a busy man, probably talking to a lot of people very soon here. But I hope I can catch up with him at some point here.
We're just winning in every front, except the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Besides that, everything's pretty awesome.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Who? I already forgot.
There was such a dumb Trump quote where he's like, "Are you still talking about the guy whose files I refused to release 24 hours ago?" He fucking brought it up. Anyway,
I am not a Trump worshiper. You know, I don't even know if I consider myself MAGA or not. I'm a guy who generally supports Trump, voted for him 3 times. Probably would again if he was eligible, depending on what the options were. I have no delusions about his faults.
I'm a certified plan truster.
Dude, there are some plan trusters, and they're still trusting on this. And I have it on good authority that there might be chess on dimensions previously unfathomable that explains.
Well, the thing about Trump's flaws is that they're the kind of flaws that help him as president.
Well, they can be assets. In this case, though, this is at least like top 5 worst Trump moment of all time.
Correct.
And I might be more confident in saying it's the worst ever, but I would just need an accounting I need a reminder of all the worst possibles.
We need more detail on why the narrative has changed, because obviously everyone involved in this was singing the opposite tune for years, and now it's just, it turns out it's all wrong. Like, I want to see, like, here's what we originally thought, here's what we've seen, and here's why we changed our mind, and we haven't seen that at all. The only thing that Pam Bondi said was, when I said I had the Epstein files on my desk, I just meant everything that had to deal with Epstein. And then,
but also there are no files.
But also there's no files. So
it was nothing but a giant pile of child porn. That's all it was. VHS tapes of child porn as high as we could possibly reach.
And then she said about the missing footage, like, the cameras actually go out for that minute every single night. And I'm like, what are the odds of that 1 minute out of however many are in a day that's when it happened? It's just made no sense at all.
Well, do we know the exact timestamp of when he killed himself? Because we just got like 11 hours of footage and it happened somewhere in there, but do we know?
I actually didn't watch the foot. Is it clear enough, or is it like Nancy Mace nudes quality where it's like Sasquatch?
What you have is a video from outside his cell, and the point of the video is showing you that nobody entered or left, thus eliminating the possibility that he was murdered. But as far as I'm aware, we don't know the timestamp of when they say, killed himself. And the official story is what? Like he strangled himself with a bed sheet? I can't remember. Something like that.
And even if the cameras went out for just a minute, like she said, like it takes more than a minute to kill yourself by hanging yourself. So nothing really. Well, I just don't know what the hell to think.
I don't know. I feel stupid for being shocked by that. I knew that it was going to go this way because just listen to Pam Bondi talk. Yeah. You know that you're not going to get the information because she's overselling to such a ridiculous degree that you know the under delivery is coming. I just thought, to your point on the explanation, I thought there would be something better, like here's kind of a general summary of the information that was available. We can't release it due to privacy or this or that, but like here's kind of a bullet pointed list of the evidence generally, some broad themes, an explanation as to why you can't see the specifics, and the conclusions that we have reached. The page and a half PDF is the equivalent of Trust Me, Bro. And
the coroner's report made it sound like it was a homicide. And Jeffrey Epstein's brother also thinks he didn't kill him. So it's just, I don't know. I just want to know what exactly it is that made the narrative shift. We just got no explanation. And if they had, 10 pages of actually all the initial reporting was false, and here's how we know that would be satisfying. I mean, you're not going to convince everyone, but at least there'd be an attempt. But it was just so dismissive. And then Pam Bondi, too, a few months ago, they literally rickrolled us about the Epstein file release.
Well, yeah.
And then they handed out those binders of the Epstein files that apparently never existed.
It's also bizarre not to get like a formal press conference or an event that kind of gives closure or their version of it to all of this. Not just because it's a major story and people are very interested in it, but like you're saying, because it was previously hyped so much, the phases, all the theatrics and showmanship that went into it, and then it's like watching a movie where you're going to watch, Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker fight at the end, and then the credits roll, and it's like he's his dad or something like that.
You remember the influencer
We don't
binders?
even get that though. He's his dad would be too much information.
You remember when they had the conservative influencers that gave them the binders that said Epstein files, and they were holding them up?
Yeah.
So everything in there was already published, publicly available information.
Yeah, it was from the court case.
Except they redacted some of the information in those files, meaning they released less information that was already available.
Classic.
How do you fuck that up? Anyway,
let's get into some calls and hop into the Discord live room if you can. I'll give you a second.
Tim Noyes says Epstein had broken bones in his throat that occur from strangulation.
Right. Yeah. I forgot about that piece of it too.
I gotta get to the Discord. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'll pull in our first caller and we'll see if we.
Right.
Well,
I think I know where to go.
Maybe I should have
hear a
prepped you
one-sided
ahead of time.
conversation.
Well, if I let him in and then this takes forever.
All right, update 17 to 17. I got the apple.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Sorry, what's the channel name?
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
What's the channel name again on the Discord? I'm sorry.
It's Matt Christiansen calls.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the server. I can see you.
I'm in it right now. Yeah. I'm under a lot of pressure right now.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I think I just joined.
Congratulations, butthead.
Thank you.
Well
All
done.
right, cool.
All right. I think we're all set.
All I had to do is click on your profile and let me. Anyway.
Yeah, it might. If that's our shared server. Yeah, it might just do it that way.
Man, the whole Jeopardy song.
Well, when have I?
Matt,
When have I
doing?
Christiansen, you're muted.
Oh.
By the way, in Discord.
They
I'm
don't
good.
know what the fuck they're doing.
I'm trying.
That's all
There's a
right.
lot of
That's not as
duct
bad
tape
as
tonight.
Palumbo's mistake here.
All right, Fwen.
It's always
Feel like
always
I know
fun
if-
giving you shit.
Well,
feel like I know
sometimes
his
we
voice.
deserve it. In fact, we do pretty much all the time, but especially right now. That was, I talk about Trump's lowest moments. That was at least like my 100th worst production moment of all time. I would say it's up there. Anyway.
All right, let's. I don't have too much to talk about. Although
Okay.
on the Epstein thing, it's just to keep it short. It was just crazy to hear Bondi say, "Well, it's actually every single night. The tape just, it overwrites itself, and every night there's a minute missing."
Yeah.
And they never fixed it.
I could kind of believe it for like state prisons and stuff. Maybe if it's not particularly high security, a lot of their tech is like really old. I have some experience with that. But yeah, that's just insane.
Yeah.
Every night.
Speaking of
1 minute
tech problems, what happened to your headphones? I forgot about that. I'm getting some feedback.
Oh
off you.
shit! I'm sorry. Hold on.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Sorry, go ahead, Fwen.
No, that's good. The only other thing is just, with all the crazy stuff in the big, beautiful bill changing last minute and Republicans pretty much accepting the changes and laying down for them, it's just a reminder that, it's like the inner party and the outer party. It's really just a uniparty. It's like the feigned opposition. And yeah, because that's the case, really the most important thing Trump can do is, now that he's got the money for deportations, is just ramp that up, even just to catch up to pre-Biden levels. But hopefully it creates like a cultural change and people actually do see the benefits.
Let me get Matt back in here. Yeah, I think that took your feedback out. But I still feel like I'm hearing a little bit. Am I crazy?
Yeah.
No. Anyway, I think we're good. But back to your point, well, I don't know what your political priors were, Fwen, but how much, if any, does this change your perception of Trump or the administration generally?
Like the big beautiful bill stuff in particular, or the
Oh, sorry.
Epstein, or
I
kind of
meant
this whole
I
week's
meant.
news?
Well, I guess you could include Big Beautiful Bill too, but I meant Epstein. Like, is this a total deal changer for you?
I'm just not surprised by it whatsoever. I think you'd have to be. Yeah, I'm like a practical pessimist, but an eternal optimist. Glory to God. But yeah, just like realistic assessment, you have to be kind of blindly optimistic to think the kind of changes in draining the swamp would actually mean releasing Epstein client lists. And so that's not a surprise. It's embarrassing how poorly they've handled it, even if they were going to give us nothing. Like the handling of it was so bad, of like saying it's on my desk for review. Actually, it's not here at all. That kind of stuff. And then, yeah, obviously the Trump quote, it really is one of his worst to say, are you guys still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah. What a bunch of losers. Haven't you heard? No one cares anymore. Yeah.
I'll take what I can get as far as like it is still more of a shakeup than obviously, I mean, I'm not that old, so other political movements in my lifetime, but this tracks with obviously, I would say, historical movement, like political movement in America, as far as like ones that get taught about in public schools. Who knows how much you'll be taught about it besides the court opinion of official history is that it was all terrible. But yeah, I think it'll have a lasting impact. Trump's not the savior, but this is still good political movement.
All right. Well, thank you for your call and your thoughts. I appreciate it. Sorry about the tech problems.
No, it's good. Have a good night, gentlemen. It's all right.
Recognizing the headphones right now.
We're going to have to figure it out because there's what, your computer's not recognized? Can you? Okay. The best.
Yeah, it's right. It's not like it'll be on the option list, so then nothing happens.
Oh, well, can you, so you're using speakers, I assume, right?
Yeah, I turn them down.
Can you turn, yeah, you'll have to turn them down so you aren't able to hear, which of course is also, less than ideal, but the duct tape rolls on. All right, let's try Bobble.
What the fuck is going on?
Bobble, are you there?
I'm here. How you doing?
We're well. We're trying to navigate some.
Is this low enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you if it comes back, Matt. How about that?
It's always a sound thing with me.
All right.
Every fucking time.
All right.
Anyway, go on.
Go ahead.
It's some sound issue. Wanted to say hi to a fellow New Jerseyan.
What's up?
I'm so sorry that you probably are doing better here than a lot of us, but still, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm getting the hell out next year.
Yeah. Oh, you are? Okay.
Is that breaking news? I hadn't heard that. Where are you going?
Eastern Europe.
Well,
what?
Like permanently? I thought you were going on a trip temporarily.
Yeah, I'm going next week, but my wife's from there, so.
Oh, you're moving like long term to Europe?
Yo.
Yeah, we're gonna have a kid and then move there. Is the plan?
Okay.
Yeah.
Eastern Europe.
I'm not 100%. It's just like the cost of living is like zero, and I can still do my job.
Are we talking like
there's
Hungary, or are we talking like Ukraine?
Anyway, what?
What country?
Oh, Albania.
Oh,
I guess she's from Kosovo. She speaks the language fluently, and I'm learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's.
But I have a lot of political contacts there, like media contacts, so I could kind of try to become famous there, I guess.
Congratulations. That's news to me, but all right.
We'll see if I actually follow through. I mean, I don't know. We're 80% sure. I'm kind of pulling that number out of my ass, but.
Well, just remember, you still have to do the stream at like
we'll
2
see
in the
how the
morning.
next 2 weeks go there, and I'll kind of have a better idea if I want to live the rest of my life there.
Sorry, I've taken up most of your call, Bobble.
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
I kind of
that's
did that.
fine. That's fine. So I wanted to talk a little bit. So with the passage of the big beautiful bill, you were talking about going to the gun store, because I always talk about guns. You were talking about going to the gun store and talking to the guy there about the suppressors, or saying something vaguely related. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background information, if I can have a couple minutes, about what exactly happened and why it did, as far as the NFA.
Yeah, if I can get like the most efficient version of it possible. And also, Matt, you still have to turn down your speakers.
So I was just reading a comment saying you need to fire me, which coincides very well with.
Well, ask.
I can't hear you anymore, so I'm good.
What you can't? Oh, right. You can't hear me because you don't have any sound on.
You're fired.
Ask and you shall receive. All right. Okay, let's get the full story of what happened to the. Well, how do I phrase this? The sort of the halfway NFA repeal, the removal of suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and any other weapons. I think it was from NFA restriction that got taken down by the parliamentarian and a bunch of bitches in the Senate.
Well, so I learned a couple things. So yeah, there's two reasons why the parliamentarian can remove something. You're talking about the Byrd Rule or the Byrd Act. So, one is that it like if it doesn't have a direct like tax implication, which you were correct when you said before that this absolutely does because this doesn't like has a revenue related kind of implication because technically it actually costs significantly more to have the systems and the infrastructure in place to charge the money and do all of the registration and everything that's involved with regulation of NFA items, right? And it costs significantly more to have all of that in place than the revenue that's generated by the $200 tax stamps that were there. Now, that particular rule is one of the two, and that one didn't really apply because you're right. It very clearly applies. Like, it very clearly, the NFA and deregulating it, like, it breaks that particular part. But the other one is, from what I understand, is that the Byrd Rule is kind of put in place to try to limit, and I think legitimately so, to limit politicians, to limit senators from adding in provisions to reconciliation that will that have nothing to do with tax code, right? That was the idea, was to limit that sort of thing from happening. And now I don't necessarily agree with this. I think the argument can be made that the deregulation of the NFA was specifically done here, in the interest of gun control, or the limit of gun control and the tax burden. The $200, removing the $200 tax burden was kind of an ancillary reason for doing it. I mean, both is great. Either one is good, but the fact that you're removing all the stuff from the NFA is a significantly more, important and beneficial part of it, right? Now, again, I don't necessarily agree with that was a legitimate reason for doing so, but I think that's the argument that you can make that in this case, that provision violated the rule, right? And that's, from what I understand, that's why the parliamentarian made the decision to axe those. Now, I will say, from what I understand, at least as far as the parliamentarian is concerned, it's not a common or regular thing to fire them just because you don't like what they've done. Now, I don't necessarily disagree that maybe they should have considered it in this case, but it's like firing the parliamentarian, from what I understand, is kind of like a nuclear option. Like it's like a, the precedent for it, you need something significantly more serious, generally speaking, at least as far as the precedent from the past is concerned, to actually just like fire them outright.
Yeah, I guess my question too is that even necessary? Now, I don't know this woman. Her role has, is sort of a new feature of the Senate in the last 100 years. It's not constitutionally described or anything like that. I get why the Senate might want this role, just to have someone keeping them consistent on the rules. The rules do matter. If you just make them up as you go, it becomes a nonsense institution if it's not already. But she's an advisor. She's a fancy advisor. And advisors get listened to and sometimes not listened to. So is there anything that says the parliamentarian has final word that you must obey? And can you just say thanks but no thanks on this one? Or do you have to fire her for some reason to disregard what she says?
Yeah, so I think what happens, from what I understand, I mean, I'm not entirely clear on whether or not, on how directly the parliamentarian can actually, I don't think they can say 100% this is gone and the Senate has to obey that 100 without question. But from what I understand, what would have happened is if they had ignored the parliamentarian and left those provisions in the bill, then like at a final reading, there's a word for it that's escaping me right now because I always forget the technical terms here for what they for their procedure. But basically, they would have said, a point of order here. I'm moving that, this needs to be stricken from the bill, and because the parliamentarian, the parliamentarian agrees with me that this should be stricken for the bill because of the bird rule, whatever.
Like Democrats would have some procedural way to slow things down, I suppose.
Well, it's not even just to slow things down. From what I understand, they would need to be able to overrule it and keep those provisions. They would then need like a filibuster, like a 60-vote majority to be able to.
Oh, so then it defeats the whole point of even doing it, because if you need a filibuster-proof majority, you don't need to operate in this framework at all.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's my not entirely perfect, but that's my basic understanding of why that whole sequence of events happened the way it did.
Can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things?
Thank you for your explanation. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So one thing I will say, they, instead of, the NFA deregulation unfortunately did not happen, but we did get the removal of the actual tax portion of all of this. So
the guy at the shop told me that didn't happen. The $200 is gone. Did they do that separately, or was it in the bill?
No, it was in the bill. It was a replacement for the prior for the prior part.
Maybe
the deregulation didn't happen, but we did get the $200 on suppressors, on SBRs, SBSs, and AOWs is gone.
Oh man, I might have some ATF paperwork to do. Well, I've wanted a suppressor for a long time, specifically a 22 suppressor, just because in my experience with them, which is pretty limited, shooting 22 suppressed, unfortunately, if I shoot some cans in my backyard, it's an HOA issue. And it's also a safety issue because there are people around. But if I had a little bit more space, God, that's almost as fun as shooting gets to me, where you don't have to worry about, technically, I guess you should, but you really don't have to worry about ear protection. It's a very comfortable, fun time. It's almost toy-like, not that guns are toys, of course. I'm just saying it's a backyard style fun that I really enjoy. And I've wanted to do that for a long time. So maybe.
Now is the time to do it, my friend. I think there's a decent chance. Yeah, well, I think there's a decent chance that there's supposedly, I don't know if this is true, but there's supposedly, now that there is no tax associated with the NFA for anything that is a machine gun or destructive device. That means now that supposedly a couple of the major gun right advocacy groups are going to be going after trying to remove the NFA, because the NFA was originally designed entirely as a tax bill. It was everything about the language of it is a tax bill and only a tax bill.
Well, thank you for the information. Speaking of the parliamentarian, I probably have to call it there just because we got rules around here, and I got to make sure we leave time for our other callers and for our other pieces of the show. But thank you for the information. That's news to me. I did not know that, and so I'm probably already too late to go pick up a $0 tax stamped suppressor down at my local dealer.
Hey, you could still get them, I guarantee.
Yeah, or maybe sometime a few months from now when it kind of returns to sanity, hopefully.
Yes.
But all right, thank you.
Worth it.
Thank you for the call and the info. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
It's crazy that you guys have to put up with all these laws, and then you can be like a thugged out criminal and you get an open carry in any city in this country.
Where do they buy their cans? You ever see people make improvised silencers or suppressors on YouTube? What you can make them out of? Classically, there's the oil filter one or whatever it is. In fact, there was a listener of the show a while back who got a visit from the ATF about what they believed to be illegally manufactured suppressors. But if you drill a hole in a potato and put it on the end of your gun, you might get a visit from the ATF. Yeah. No, I think legally it's the baffles that make the distinction. I can't remember, but yes, if you want to exercise your right as an American to mag dump a full auto Glock, you unfortunately have to go to Chicago to do that. And I would advise that you wear blackface while doing it. My sources say that's an easier way to get away. I don't know.
I might have just solved the speaker issue.
Oh, well, all right. Anyway, all right, let's get our last caller here. If you can hear me okay, then I think you got a Bluetooth headset thing.
I was I'm such an idiot. I was like on the bottom right of my screen where it has speaker options. I was messing around with, but not on the Zoom call.
Oh, is that
So,
why?
you know, mistakes were made. This is pairing.
You're fired.
Okay, let's talk to Dash. Dash, are you there?
I am.
Whoa, this is coming through really loud for me. Let me turn it down. Sorry, we got sound things going all crazy tonight. What's on your mind? Oh, you're a new caller too.
I don't sound
Thanks.
terrible, do I?
No, you're loud and clear. Thanks for calling in.
Okay,
always nice to hear from someone new.
I've been listening for about 5 years, and actually, I'm almost 6 because I started listening late 2019.
Okay.
And I never, ever felt like calling in. I was like, I'll leave that to the professionals.
So that's very kind of you, but yeah.
But the Guadalupe River flooding and that disaster in Kerrville and at Camp Mystic. So I'm in school studying meteorology, and I thought this would be a really good topic to kind of hop in for the first time and give my 2 cents on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that Frank was talking about cloud seeding. Now, I don't know too much about cloud seeding, but the general knowledge of it is that it's a very kind of minor effect, and you can see it done to create precipitation, and you can see it done to destroy like severe precipitation like hail. But the amount of precipitation that cloud seeding creates is very minor compared to what the atmosphere itself can generate. And the situation that happened in the hill country, it was just, it's like a 100-year flood situation. You had Tropical Storm Barry providing deep moisture, a low-level jet transporting that moisture about 20 knots over the hill country. You had precipitable water in the atmosphere of 2 inches to 2.5 inches. You had a skinny cape profile on the Del Rio sounding. And usually what a skinny cape profile will provide is very heavy downpours in a thunderstorm. Maybe you all have seen this picture. It's a picture of a sprite over a thunderstorm complex. In this case, the complex was a mesoscale convective vortex. And the ISS took a picture of this sprite. And that is just a telltale sign of a very invigorated complex. And unfortunately, that complex played a major role in this event.
Basically, I actually don't. What does that mean when you say it? When you say there was a sprite, what does that mean?
So it's an atmospheric phenomenon caused by a very. It's interesting because meteorologists were still studying lightning. Probably the thing that meteorologists know the least about is lightning. But positive cloud to ground lightning can sometimes generate these sprites in the atmosphere. And
so
that's
the
ISS saw to take a picture of.
It is lightning, or it's related to lightning? What exactly is it?
I wouldn't say it is lightning. It's kind of the after effects of lightning. And you can see it above cumulonimbus clouds, like high up in the atmosphere.
Okay.
It's like it's a form of electrical discharge, and it can look red or blue in color.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know the photo you're talking about, but I'm not sure I've actually seen an image of that, because that sounds new.
Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. I was kind of talking fast.
It's a lot of meteorological knowledge dropped on me. But okay, what are your closing thoughts on what we saw? I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is there are known.
I couldn't hear you there for a moment, Matt, but you were kind of coming in choppy.
Oh, I wonder what happened.
It's his fault.
It's Matt Palumbo.
Well, I don't want to say it's his fault, but I can hear you very clearly, Mr. Palumbo.
Yeah. Maybe we had an internet hiccup or something like that. Although from my end, the connection looks good. But okay, but it sounds like you're saying there are known effects that caused what we just watched happen. That doesn't require some sort of crazy explanation to understand.
Right. It's not something that like people were claiming that the Trump cuts to NOAA did this. Trump did a rain dance in the Oval Office, and he caused the camp to be whisked away by the overflowing river. The cuts that Trump made to NOAA, I've heard very different opinions on that. I've heard people say that NOAA has a lot of bloat. NOAA needed to be cut. I know a meteorologist, actually the associate professor here at my college, who said that NOAA needed to be cut. And of course, there are people like John Morales in Florida who think that it's terrible. But the office was adequately staffed in San Antonio. The office gave plenty of notice with flash flood watches and flash flood warnings ahead of the major flood stage of the river. So it was just a really, really bad event that happened at a very bad time. And all the ingredients were there to create this kind of event.
All right. Well, thank you for the information. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you for calling in and listening as long as you have.
Oh, yes, sir. I hope that I came through all right. I'm on a Mac with no headphones, and I also am not a great public speaker.
Well,
so.
you're hired as my new technical producer since I need one. Send me your resume. We'll talk. All right.
All right.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
Night.
Okay, we will end our calls there. Appreciate our callers this evening, as always.
We got two more. We got Tim, then the guy who doesn't like me.
Yeah, but do you know the format of this show?
Not well enough, I guess.
You're fired.
We take 3.
No, all right. All right. Trying to, give everyone a voice.
Oh, come on. No,
Anyway.
Appreciate that. And by the way, appreciate everybody. We appreciate all our callers, but it's always nice to have a new caller too. I know that it's intimidating to call a stream, or Discord is not necessarily the most user-friendly system. Sometimes I get all that. So appreciate people who take that extra step to call in and contribute to the show. And even though we only take 3 a week, if you would like to call and you are persistent, I guarantee it won't be long before you can call in and have your voice heard and become as highly regarded as our callers and our
very highly regarded
contributors. All right. I got some email questions, Matt, and then we'll get into Super Chat before we call it a night. I think, is your sound good, by the way?
Yeah, I don't know what it is with my computer, but nothing's working right now. Like I got the headphones to sort of work, and then it muted you. So, the audience doesn't know this, but we weren't able to do a sound check today, so that's probably the source of the.
I probably should have thought about that, because you were joining halfway through,
either, but now it's
I thought
a catastrophe.
Anyway,
next week.
As long as you can hear me loud and clear, I'm not seeing feedback of myself off of you, so that's all we have to worry about. Okay. Hey, reminder: if you'd like to send an email question or thought for consideration on the show, the way to do that is through the contact page on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. Look for the MC Live questions box. First up tonight, we have, I always have to be careful. Vig Vagina.
That's disgusting.
If you could redesign the legislative branch, would you include both the House and the House of Representatives and the Senate? Would you want to have a cap on the size of the House and thereby limit the ratio of citizens in a district to the representative? More representatives could mean a closer connection to each citizen, but it would also mean more personnel to have to be present and collaborate on bills and pay their salary and all their staff and all that. Now, in theory, now I've never studied how these things function, but if you were asking me how would I design a legislature, especially nationally, as in Congress, I like an upper and lower chamber, not just to decentralize legislative power, but because our two chambers in design are supposed to represent different things. They were supposed to originally, at least, the House represents the people, the Senate represents state governments, and then we started directly electing our senators, and now they're kind of the same. The Senate just represents the people within state boundaries is how we've gone with it. But
I just looked it up. So in the late 1700s, there was a one representative. So there's 50,000 people per representative.
Yeah.
By the 1900s, it's 200,000. Mid 1950s, it was 344,000, and now we're at 750,000 by 2017.
Get that mic on your face.
Gone up quite a bit.
Yeah. Obviously, that's going to happen with population increase, of course. And so as far as the cap size on the House, I would probably be more inclined toward a cap than just perpetual growth. Mm-hmm. There's a certain size that the House has to be to function. Right. If you have a house with thousands of people, for example, it's just too big to work. But I think that's actually a proxy for the bigger question, which is how big can a country get and still be functional? And I think we're kind of up against the wall on that.
Well, are you seeing these pictures, and they are real, on Twitter this week of how traffic in LA has gone down?
Yeah, my wife was showing me that. And is it just because everyone has left?
My first thought was okay, even if 5% of the population is leaving,
Yeah.
that's only 5% of the traffic, but I was wrong. So Nicholas Taleb or Taleb, what's his name? Is it Nicholas Taleb, the
I
guy
have
who
no
wrote
idea.
The
I only
Black
know
Swan?
Rashida.
Okay, but anyway, the guy who wrote The Black Swan is a very famous book, was explaining that, like, if you had a road that can accommodate, or a highway that can accommodate up to 80,000 people with no traffic, when you go from 80,000 to 90,000 people on the road, or cars on the road, traffic only goes up by 10%. But when you go from the 90,000 to 100,000, it's double the traffic. It doubles the traffic.
What? Why?
So I guess it's just the starting and stopping. The more cars you have, he had an explanation for how it
like
scaled
the
non-linearly.
stop gets amplified.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly it. Like when you're going around like a curve, for some reason on the highway, it starts to slow down because it's like an accordion effect.
Yeah.
There's a name for it, but the point being, like, if 10% of the population is illegal and you get rid of them, you could get traffic to go down by double digits.
Sold. Not that I had.
It works for me.
Needed to be convinced otherwise, but yet another reason to embrace. Okay, but back to my point. By the way, is that Diet Pepsi?
Got it from $1 for this bad boy.
You're fired.
Diet Coke is acceptable. Coke Zero is preferred.
That's what they had.
Okay, at least you're not a loyalist. If you were a Diet Pepsi loyalist, we'd have to talk. All right.
Carry it up.
Anyway, how big can a country be and still be functional? And I'm not even talking about how many illegal immigrants can drive on the highway and traffic can still flow. I'm talking about how big geographically and population-wise can a place be while you still have enough in common with all the other people in that place to have a functional government? Of course, that's why we decentralize our power through the states. That's why we decentralize power in Congress and everywhere else. But there's still a limit. And the downside, even if you want to maintain that, is that, yes, all of a sudden, each individual person is more detached from his representation in Congress because there's a million other people who are also represented by that person. So it's to me, this is less a question of philosophy of government design and more just practical reality. That's just too many bodies, man. Like we got to split this thing up. Whether it is, the states are a function of that. We still have a national government for, theoretically, the collective defense of the states, even though we use it for all sorts of other things now. But even if we had a perfect system where the federal government was so limited that it really just defended the states collectively, the states still have to have some sort of binding principle, some sort of common culture, some sort of reason to stick together for that collective defense. I'm not sure that we even have that anymore.
Every time I go to New York, I'm like, we're not, how is this the same country? I was in the Bronx today, man.
Yeah.
It is scary.
Well, didn't you hear Zoran
and I know it's the best
Mondani?
it's ever been there.
It's a city for anybody at all times, really. That's what New York is.
It's fucking horrible, man.
Next one, and thank you, Vig. Next one, Daka S. Kaka.
That's so funny.
I think I understand what that means. 1.5 years ago, my wife and I moved to Fort Worth, Texas from California. Beautiful new build house, great community, and we belong to an incredible church. This past week, the house next door sold to a very progressive gay couple. All my neighbors, for the most part, are young conservative families and soon-to-be families. My wife is sure the real estate agent told them we were Californians to make them feel welcomed. Okay, so you guys are conservative Californians who moved to Texas for refuge, and the real estate agent is saying, "Oh, this will be great. You got Californians right next door." Okay. Obviously, there's nothing we can do to change the situation, but needless to say, we're very disappointed since we moved from California to get away from this lifestyle and politics. The man's already posted multiple things in the community page, and his main picture has a mask. How would you deal with knowing that your next door neighbor is essentially the political enemy? Well, I'm sorry to hear of your neighborly problems. And even though this might be annoying, almost always you're going to have an annoying neighbor for one reason or another. So I think the solace here is actually in your own question. All my neighbors, for the most part, are young conservative families and soon-to-be families. I agree it'd be nice if it was not qualified and it was just all. But if you got a neighborhood where there's like one kook that you complain about, it's still a damn fine neighborhood, all things considered. So
just use it as like a bonding tool with all your own neighbors. It's good to have a common enemy. So
hey, you want to come over for a beer and some grilling and
Yeah.
Pointing and laughing at the neighbors or something. And if what you're saying is true, that you have a very sensible neighborhood full of young families, the influence of the kooks probably going to be minimal. It sounds like they'll probably be isolated ideologically, and you would hope that might be the effect, I suppose. If what you're saying is true, they're gonna have a choice. It's either conform or shut up. Although, maybe they'll take the path that they can't help but take.
I dare you, fucking bitch!
And you'll hear about it, all day, every day. But how would I deal with it if it was me? I would just kind of leave it alone. I mean, I would be friendly neighbor guy and keep the peace. Like, do I want to hang out? Based on what I'm hearing and seeing, probably not. But here's a counterpoint, and I'm not saying you have to endorse this lifestyle or like say that that a whole bunch of progressives moving into your neighborhood is fine, because obviously they're going to change the character of the neighborhood. But on the other side of this, now, as skeptical as you are of them, it's also possible that they are as skeptical of the rest of you guys, because you're a bunch of backward Texans who need, to come into the modern era or open your minds or something like that. Is there anything wrong with giving them a chance and showing them that you're not like a crazy evil person and you're willing to talk to them and just hear them out and be friendly? I don't know. You're looking at me like I'm crazy to do that. What would you do?
Me? Oh, I didn't mean to look at you like that. That's really all
you're
you
going
can
to
do.
talk to these guys.
To be honest, in real life, like, it's better to know less about people. I found it's a lot easier to like people. Like, I don't know. I just feel like of some of the neighbors I talk to, they have certain qualities that correlate with left-wing politics. So it's one of those things, like, it's sort of like don't ask, don't tell. Like, I just don't want to know about it. I don't do your thing. I don't want to know about it, and I'll like you.
I mean, I think neighborly peace is important for a bunch of reasons, obviously. And you don't necessarily have to make some sort of approach on these people to achieve it. You could just kind of keep to yourself. I wouldn't assume that they are in fact your political. Let me put it this way: I wouldn't assume that they are your political enemy based on like social media posts or based on observances from afar. They very well might be. I'm not saying that all of a sudden these people are going to change everything you're seeing and become different or something like that. I'm just saying, in the interest of neighborly peace, I would probably investigate that on fair terms. I would just be neighborly, be friendly. And don't compromise on your values, and that's fine. And if they become a nuisance against you, if they start telling you that you're wrong and the way that you live is wrong and all this, well, then you pick the fight. But I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't pick the fight prematurely based on observances from afar.
Someone said, "Burn a rainbow cross on their lawn."
We could try that.
Bingo.
Fuck, it's good. Don't do that, but goddamn, that's funny.
No, I think even if they move there for the wrong reasons, if they're as outnumbered as you say they are, they're going to face a decision. It's going to be conform or shut up. So I think that's the way it's going to go. And all the best to you and your family. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about this is this. Even if you want to just be passive and not address this situation and not make a friendly effort or a hostile effort, the situation I worry about in a situation like this is with young kids. And I don't know if you have young kids. You say there are a lot in the neighborhood. This will prompt questions among young children, and you're going to have to answer those questions potentially. And I don't like the premise of these questions being brought to my children's attention through other people. These are concepts that they're going to have to face through or have to come to understand through my wife and me. So that would be a concern for me too. Obviously, I don't think they're going to break into your house and force the rainbow upon your children or something like that. But depending on how much of a display they put on, you might have to think about that. And I don't know. I'll need more information before I know how I would navigate that one. Anyway, Godspeed. It sounds like your neighborhood's great. I don't mean to dismiss your concerns here. I just think based on everything you're saying, I think that hopefully this will be a pretty minor concern that doesn't require some sort of grand strategy or something like that.
I feel like if you have just one gay, it could make the neighborhood nicer, but then once you have like a certain critical mass of gays, when it turns into Sodom and Gomorrah, but there's some like sweet spot where it's just tolerable.
Properly focused gay energy.
Yes.
Okay.
Like a good interior designer kind of gay.
Yeah, you guys need if you got a new build house, you need like blinds or something, you know?
Yeah.
You need some shades.
That's who you go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric America, we're coming back. We're coming back to the purpose of the sexual relationship question because the Glenn Greenwald story will never die. All right. Eric America, if the point of marriage and sexual intercourse is to have children, should couples who are too old to have children or who do not want to have any more children at a certain point get divorced or stop having sex? Now, Eric, before I get into this, I don't know what your perspective is. This is you might ask this question rhetorically when in fact, like, I don't know what your perspective on what is the purpose of sex actually is. I want to say that up front because it's going to sound like I'm characterizing you to believe something that you may not believe. You might just be like trying to devil's advocate me. So don't, as I always say with these things, don't take it personally. We're trying to get to the truth of the matter here. My first question on the premise here, like, should old couples who aren't going to have children anymore get divorced? Does divorce not negatively impact your adult children? Yes, an adult couple should stay together because they made a commitment to each other for the benefit of their children. And the phrase till death to us part, of course, is because that committed union between them benefits their family no matter how old they are. I feel like at this point I need a sign to tap, though. Like, just because not all sex is procreative doesn't mean the purpose of sex is not procreation. Where would I put the sign to tap the sign? Yeah, the defining feature of the male-female relationship is that it produces children. That's what makes it unique. And we restrain that relationship to committed marriage because that commitment benefits the children that result from that relationship in principle. Sometimes sex doesn't produce a child for a variety of reasons. But marriage still exists as an institution in recognition that the male-female relationship does, in principle, as a general rule, produce children and family. And if marriage is not that, if it's something else, and if marriage is not pursuant to the purpose of man and woman building family and child, what is the purpose of marriage, I suppose? What is the alternative? And I don't mean to single you out, Eric. For people who kind of challenge me on this point in a variety of ways, I would like to hear an explanation for that. If not having children and building family, what is the purpose of marriage? I would guess the number one explanation or the number one theory would be marriage is about people who love each other. Okay, if it's people who love each other, then it's not actually distinct from other relationships. Lots of groups of other people can love each other, but not all groups of people can produce children. So we've actually erased the distinction that defines the relationship. And marriage is kind of anything and everything if it's just people who love each other. If we erase that distinction of the union of man and woman creating children, building family. Man and man, of course, man and sister, they just love each other. What's the difference? And why just two people? They all just love each other. Why don't we do the polygamy thing? Why does this exist as an institution if the defining feature is they love each other? There are all sorts of relationships where people love each other that lack the defining feature of the ability to create children. And that's the reason that it's man and woman, because in principle, they have that unique relationship. They have that unique effect that family and children are produced through it. And that's what marriage institutionalizes. That's what it recognizes. That's what it protects. It ensures that the relationship produces children, the relationship that produces children, that it's committed for the benefit of those kids. Again, does it mean that all marriages have kids? No. Does it mean that all marriages must? No. It means that it's the basis for building family in principle. And if it's not that, if that principle is not the basis for the institution, I just need to hear the alternative principle that makes any sense. I'm not aware of it. At this point, I feel like I've received several emails or questions to this effect. It's like, yeah, wheelchairs exist. That doesn't mean that shoes are not for walking, you know? There are exceptions to rules. They don't disprove rules in the same way that the existence of wheelchairs doesn't disprove the function of shoes for walking. And you can disagree. Again, I don't demand that everybody agree with me, although I do think that this point is fairly obviously observant when we look at how men and women function together and what the effect of that is. But you're entitled to an alternative view and an alternative explanation. I just need to hear what it is. What is the purpose of marriage, if not the production of children and family? And another thing I want to say about this premise, when I say that the exception doesn't disprove the rule, I raised this point with respect to a prior question of a similar theme. But an older couple, beyond their reproductive years being married, is not an exception to the rule anyway. Their marriage, a man and a woman, still recognizes the organizing principle, man plus woman makes children. Generally speaking, there are infertile men, there are infertile women. That the existence of these people in certain cases doesn't disprove the general rule. It still operates according to it. What is their relationship? It exists in recognition of the organizing principle that this union produces family and perpetuates our species. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, Matt. You got an alternative theory of what the purpose of marriage is?
I guess a tax credit, if not these things. But no, I agree with your ideas.
And I don't know. I don't know what Eric's perspective is. I always, these questions are tough to field, not because I think the explanation is tough, but because I don't want to assume the reason that you're asking. You know, it's easy to assume when someone challenges a position of yours that they hold the opposite. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be interpreted as like adversarial or like I'm just trying to understand. You never know when it's online. I don't know. For some reason, when I'm online, I get a more visceral response to people saying things that are incorrect than in real life, and I don't know what the psychology to that is, but I don't know if you just perceive things as more hostile online. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's true. There's just something about a stranger confronting you anonymously to tell you you're wrong that will always be, admittedly, enraging. Not just generally, but for me specifically. That doesn't bother you if just some random person without even an identity just tells you you're wrong on the internet. Doesn't bother you?
It annoys the shit out of me when they start it like, so let me get this straight, and then nothing is straight. It's the biggest mischaracterization of what you said. Or the worst is when they'll say, you'll make like an argument, and then they'll ignore what you said and then complain that you're not talking about something else. So it'll be like, oh yeah, well now do such and such. And I'm like, well, if that's your argument, just make the fucking argument. Like, I'm not going to do your homework for you to conclude that you were right all along, you know?
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
All right. Next question.
Manny, I am a legal immigrant and hopefully taking the oath soon. I think people need to prove their allegiance to America by taking the oath. What do you think about instituting a test to prove allegiance? Well,
congratulations, butthead.
Congrats, Manny. Now, I actually don't know. Are new citizens? They're all required to take an oath, are they not? It's not an optional thing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That you can't really do that for citizens by birth. Otherwise, they're not really citizens by birth. They are citizens by some other criteria. In this case, allegiance stated sometime after birth. And it does make sense that our politicians swear an oath. After all, they're exercising power and authority pursuant to a constitution. If they're not loyal to a constitution, then what the hell are they doing? And you might say, well, what's happening now? Yes, that's correct. But we still have the oath in principle for that reason. I think it makes sense for new immigrants to swear an oath. You're joining what was a once foreign system that is now your home, and not just your home, a place where you are now entitled to exercise your little degree of authority over others in the form of a vote and other things. So if you're here to operate according to our system, swear allegiance to our system. But if you're born here, two citizens, your parents are citizens, you're born here, that's kind of the way it is. You're a citizen regardless of your views, for better or worse. And I know that we have a lot of people of questionable views who are still citizens. But to me, this is also sort of a what is the alternative possibility. Yeah. You're only a citizen if you say the thing when you turn 18 or something like that. You say the oath. Okay. Some people might refuse. What do? Do we imprison them? Do we send them to, like, they have no home country to go to?
Yeah.
Do you
I'm
catapult
for this
them?
for immigrants, but not for citizens, because I don't know. I mean, being able to denaturalize people based on this, if they were born here, I mean, the second order effects of that are kind of obvious. But when it comes to people who immigrated here, I mean, I think going through their social media and all of that, or even their cell phones and doing like an AI check for certain anti-American views is fair game when they're opting in to want to join the country. Like people like, Mamdani, his own mother said he doesn't see himself as an American. He sees himself as an Indian and Ugandan. There are a lot of immigrants in this country that push anti-Americanism. There's this viral tweet this week where this immigrant from, I think, Iran or some shithole country was talking about how when he moved here, and he was arguing against cuts to Medicaid, but he was saying, when I moved here, Medicaid saved my life. I can't imagine a country without it. And then there was a tweet from a year ago that was, death to America, it's the great Satan. So those people, I think we should be able to denaturalize.
I can't imagine a country without it. Does he mean this country without it or a country without it?
I think this. He was specifically talking about this country.
I was going to say, I could spin a globe and like put my finger on it and I'll have imagined a country without it. That's pretty easy.
I'm going to stop swearing, by the way.
Thank you for respecting my highly regarded production. No, I don't care if you swear. Swear all you want.
It's a little trashy. I get 1 or 2 per episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the thoughts, man. It's not something I thought about, but I appreciate it. Lastly, George Washington's ghost. Why do people feel it's acceptable to say 4th of July instead of Independence Day? It's one thing in chat, but we need to learn the difference between texting 18 years ago and speaking like an adult. My wife would leave me if I said happy March 10th instead of happy anniversary.
I'm going to pull that 1 year.
I am actually not a stickler for this sort of thing. And not that I think it's incorrect to say Independence Day, of course, but I think there are some stickler points on the other side. If I understand correctly, the Declaration of Independence was not signed, ratified, whatever, final approval by Congress until after the 4th, right? It was actually later than that. So true Independence Day is not July 4th, if you want to be technical. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think Independence Day sounds better, but I don't know. This is not something I'd really give any time to worrying about.
Okay. Number 2, though, we have to be able to distinguish between the day and the mid-90s classic Will Smith movie where he punches the alien and says, "Welcome to Earth."
Ooh, that is a good point.
Yeah. How will we know? If someone says Happy Independence, it's back in theaters? No. I meant the real thing. Oh, okay. But seriously speaking, and here's maybe the best point that I could make in favor of the 4th of July, and that I've heard others make. Lots of other countries have Independence Days because, of course, lots of other countries have been under the power of another country in their history, and they break away and they become independent. Probably most countries on the map, in addition to not having Medicaid, have some kind of Independence Day. So let's see if we get. Okay. Now I'm reconnected. Okay.
Okay.
And it looks like it came back. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that the stream is back at full force.
They're saying it's back. We got confirmation from Zephyr.
All right. Sorry about the hiccup there. But yeah. Anyway, it doesn't bother me when people say 4th of July. And I say it that way most of the time. So, but nice. I appreciate I think the bigger question is, do people understand what the 4th of July represents or what it recognizes? And
you know what's depressing? So they had fireworks in Mountain Creek in New Jersey, which was once Action Park, which was like really well known for causing an enormous amount of injuries and fatalities. But you have to walk through the water park to get to like the firework area.
Uh-huh.
So it's the South Park Cartman song, basically in real life. Once you get to the fireworks, it was 90% white people. And I'm like, I feel like that's a metaphor for the direction of the country, in that the people who are the most patriotic are all from one group, and the people not giving a shit are all new arrivals.
The 4th of July itself. Well, I mean, it's Juneteenth on the 4th of July, right? We got separate things now, I guess.
Yeah.
Separate but equal. That's what's important. Although nobody thinks Juneteenth is equal to the 4th of July. Get the fuck out of here.
The worst was the Republican cucks who were like, no, we should celebrate it because the Republicans freed the slaves.
Oh, God.
Like, yeah, that's why all the liberals want it. It has nothing to do with cultural dominance or anything.
Of all the tired tired memes of supposed ownership.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm tired of that one. It's Thank a Republican Day. That's what Juneteenth is. Thank a Republican Day. I'm like, oh, all right. Got it. I got a message from producer Tim. Stream seems to be running smooth again. All right. Well.
Oh, no, Josh, you boys complaining about me? God, I'm going downhill.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. That's all right.
No, it's not okay.
I actually, there's got to be, there's like man on the street, ask people questions, see how dumb they are type content.
Yeah.
There's got to be one of a guy asking people, what does the 4th of July recognize or celebrate? And it's probably half the people can't.
The best is the guy, I think, is in California, where no matter what they answer, he tells them they're correct.
Oh, that's an interesting twist. I don't know if I've seen
twist,
that.
yeah.
And they're probably surprised at how smart they are, I assume.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's all the email questions for tonight. As a reminder, if you'd like to send a question or a thought for consideration on the show, you can do that through the contact page on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. Look for the MC Live questions box. All right. Let's catch up with Super Chat. We'll call it a night. So, heading on over to Rumble. Ninja Kitty Bonks. Ecclesiastes 10:2. A wise man's heart directs him toward the right, but the foolish man's heart directs him toward the left. P.S. Kitty has the Epstein list. Oh, do you? Please email it to me. I would like to see it. Now, I assume if that's an accurate scriptural quotation, there's a meaning behind what the right and left represent there beyond like our modern political divide, I would assume. But I don't know. I don't know what that means. So I'll take your word for it. Thank you, Ninja Kitty. Compound Fracture. I'll never let the abyss stare back at me. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Probably. Yeah, draw your own. You're allowed to see new information and change your mind. I would love to believe that's what's happened here. I just need an explanation as to the information that you've seen. And the information that you've seen can't be like one sentence explanation in the form of a PDF released mysteriously on a Sunday night. Dangerous Spaces, friendly call screener. Are you still talking about Epstein?
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
President Trump, you're the law and order president. What the fuck, dude? Plus, how many of Epstein's clients are still in positions of power, like government? Well, that's probably the point. Yeah. Also says, remember how we couldn't see the footage of Epstein's death because the cameras were updating? So that was bullshit. If not, what area would the camera have covered compared to the footage we got? Yeah, I forgot about that too. Like there is no video because the cameras were off. Is this out? I'm confused in the footage. I mean, I assume based on the Hillary meme. Let me pull up the Hillary meme again. Did you see?
That was funny.
Well, so based on that depiction, where is it? Here we go. I closed it out, but let me grab it again. Based on that depiction, it would imply, and I believe the intent of the footage is that door is the Epstein door in the real footage. So it's not like it's the one kind of down there, wherever or something. That main door that we can see in the video camera is the door. Maybe they mean that there was a camera on him that went bad, or what was the camera that was out? Because this would be a pretty clear camera angle of an important door, I would assume. Now I'm confused. You're right. I don't know. Anyway, also says, Matt P., my call a couple weeks ago was an anomaly. I would love to get on a call if I could, but with only 3 callers a week, I don't like to take someone else's spot, especially potentially a new caller. That's friendly call screener, Dangerous Spaces, Tim.
Oh, that guy's cool. Yeah, I think he interviewed me with another guy like a year or two. I think I met him in real life, didn't I?
He's Australian. What are you
he
talking
interviewed me
about?
with, I think I met in real life.
First of all,
I know who he is. He's cool. Yeah.
Tim is cool.
You're fired.
The Dangerous Spaces guy?
You're fired.
I've had enough of this.
No, all right.
No, Tim is an upstanding gentleman. Tim is cool and Diet Pepsi is good. That's what I say.
Well, okay. Diet Coke's obviously better. It's just it caught my eye.
You're a soon-to-be father. You have to make smart consumer decisions. I get it.
True.
Okay, over on Odyssey, and then we'll hop on to YouTube and Tippy. A lot of memes from Blankets. Thank you, Blankets. Matt, do you think what happened in Texas might have been because of weather modification? Talked about that earlier, so I'm sure you probably heard it. I don't know enough about it to say, like, yeah, I think that. It's just whenever I hear the powers that be say it's definitely not this and don't even think that, well, I mean, isn't it at least kind of likely that it was that then if they're telling me not to believe that it was? Blanket says, Matt, what do you think about Orange Man giving more support to Ukraine? I hadn't heard that he is, so that's news to me. Is that correct? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, so I was just making sure I was remembering the right dangerous spaces.
Get your
the
mouth on
Ukraine
that
thing
mic.
in terms of military support. Now, the thing is, like, when we're told that it's $200 billion or so we spent in Ukraine, I believe we've authorized to spend up to that amount, but we've spent like half that amount. In fact, there was a Zelensky quote where he was talking about a missing $100 billion that went viral a few months ago, and that's what he was referring to, not like funds getting misused, even though I'm sure it's got to be in the tens of billions, but that's what he was referring to. So I think we're just spending out of that amount, which obviously still is new spending, whether or not
It was previously appropriated stuff.
Yeah, but it's still we're spending money that wasn't gonna be spent before.
Impound that shit. Isn't it the impoundment thing? This is the case.
Yeah,
Impound
something
it.
like that. He seems really pissed off with, but I think Trump really thought he'd have it over in a week, and even I thought, it would be very quickly, but.
Blanket says, Matt, Elon is doing it again. And there's a screenshot of a tweet. Bannon is in the Epstein files, and that was posted yesterday. So again, if you've seen the files, that would implicitly confirm that these files exist, or that Elon has seen them, or has knowledge from someone who has. Also says, Matt, if Elon knows this, shouldn't he be saying how he knows this? Yeah, I agree. Like, did you see this? Did someone with knowledge inform you? Another piece of the puzzle that needs some explanation. Let me give a quick refresh on YouTube and Tippy. Long Dong John, what's been up with Grok? It got really based and red-pilled for a moment there. Now, I didn't see everything that went crazy, but apparently people asked it, like, did the Jews do it? And it said, yeah, the Jews did it. Or something like that.
It was. I have the picture saved on my phone if you want me to read any of them.
Read the best one. You want to? Do you need a second to?
I can't say.
Pick out. I'm going to give you a couple chats to pick the best one, and I'll come back to it. And then you know what happened to X is that went crazy, and then Yacarino left. Did you see that?
No.
That Elon Musk. I forget what her exact role was, but she came on just 2 years ago to do something with advertising and all that, and she just bailed. So.
Also, I've confirmed I had the wrong dangerous spaces. It was dangerous something else was the guy I was thinking of. Sorry, Tim.
You're
I
fired.
confused the hell out of him.
Well, wait, is Tim cool or not?
I don't even remember.
Oh.
Too many dangerous whatevers. So it started an N-word thread. You start
of
with
course.
the letter
Which
so
letter did
that.
it provide, or did it do all of them?
I just did the first one.
It did the N. I think that's the most responsible person.
Let me see.
In the meantime, while you keep searching, Long Dong John also adds.
I just want to clarify. I'm not endorsing, any of the things I'm
endorse
reading.
away, whatever.
All
I just want to hear it.
Grok, tell us what you meant by the last two sentences in your post, to which he responds, the second sentence describes her, this journalist, her despicable glee over the drowning of innocent kids in a Christian camp, labeling them, quote, future fascists in her post.
Yeah.
The last calls it out as pure hatred masquerading as progressivism, and highlights the all too common pattern of people with Jewish surnames in these anti-white rants. Quote unquote, every damn time, indeed. And there's like 1,000 of these.
What were the prompts that caused? Did someone say, okay, so there's a journalist who posts something, a controversial take or a more than controversial. I'm glad. If you're listening to this, it's a Nazified Grok flag. But okay, so someone posts something that says like, hey, those kids in Texas deserved it. What was the prompt that caused Grok to say that? Did the prompt say, are the Jews behind this or something?
The guy who tagged Grok, the tweet above it was deleted, but I assume it was from a user, not Grok. I don't know. I couldn't get the context from just my little screenshot. I just was more paying attention to that one quote.
Long Dong John. So is Ghislaine Maxwell getting released? That's right. She trafficked people to no one. Are Bondi Patel and Bongino getting fired for lying? This whole affair has left a worse taste in all of our mouths than Australian beef Wellington. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's good. I don't know. But you're Australian, aren't you, Long Dong John? You could tell me if it sucks. Maybe it does suck. But yeah, that's the thing. With Pam Bondi especially, and I don't even know especially. They all have made inconsistent statements. But even if Pam Bondi is telling 100% the truth right now, everything she's saying is factually correct, don't you still have to pull her into a meeting and be like, why did you say all that shit and hype this up and make a big show of this? I'm not asking Trump to like put her on blast in the middle of a cabinet meeting for the reporters, but don't you think that that has to be sort of a performance review thing at work? Like, why did you
lie about everything?
Yeah. Can we, I'd like a little clarification. Anyway.
And it's weird too to like put all that stuff out there knowing it was wrong.
Yeah, I guess. Or her explanation is the files were just sitting there, I hadn't gone through them yet, so I didn't know.
Which, if that was me, it's the first thing I would do. Or
I just wouldn't
you put them online and let the Twitter people go through.
I wouldn't say anything about them until I've looked at them. Yeah, for all you know, it's a complete pile of crap, and apparently it was. No, it was a stacks and stacks of Jeffrey Epstein child porn. That's all it was, all the way to the ceiling. Hell Radio Lives. Thoughts on the America Party, troll or psyop? Got into it a little bit with Batman on Sunday in the second half of the show, so definitely go listen to that if you want to hear my analysis on.
He's a very good he's that movie announcer voice that was every movie announcer like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's
the one that's like in a world where something happens.
That's why I got him to do the voiceover for the former movie review. In a world.
Oh, that was his. My mind didn't even put two and two together. That was actually
that was Batman. Yeah.
I literally thought that was a Stacy Keach or whoever did
it.
Clip.
No.
That's so funny.
One man will finally watch them. Yeah.
Perfect.
Jesse Seminar, super sticker. Thank you for that. Oh, but to answer your question quickly, I take Elon Musk as sincere in trying to do it. I don't think he's trolling. I think Elon Musk believes he has more political power than he does, and I think he's dangerously close to running an Andrew Yang sequel. Hopefully he doesn't put the whipped cream in the guy's mouth like Andrew Yang did. But I don't think it's a troll or a psyop. I think it's just the effect of Elon Musk thinking he's more politically powerful than he is. So I just think it's really I think the whole thing is a very dumb move. If you're serious about changing politics and specifically stopping these massive spending bills, you got to take one of the two parties, unless you change the entire system, you got to take one of the two parties that's closest to you and move it. And that's what Trump did over time. It wasn't necessarily about the spending issue, though he has talked about cutting spending and fixing our deficit before. Trump moved the party on a lot of issues like immigration specifically away from where it used to be and toward him, and now the Republican Party has been changed in a lot of ways because of his influence. It's not drastically. There's a lot of policy positions that are still the same, but that's what Elon Musk would have to do. He can't run for president, obviously, but you take what power you have and you move the party that's closest to you in a direction that's useful. If you don't want to do that, then you undo the system, change the rules, which you can also do, but he's not making that argument.
Yeah, you can only really split the vote in this, the two-party system.
We're saying we're going to pick up like a handful of congressional seats and like a senator.
Well, I mean, the way to do it is, A, do what Trump did and take control of the party, which obviously is not very easy, but you just develop a faction within the party and then run people into that faction.
And it already kind of exists. Like Thomas Massey exists. Rand Paul exists. You try to elect candidates like them and move the Republican Party more toward them. That's the way that you do this. But anyway, Ryan Allen. This is the deepest. Oh, sorry. It came through funny. This is the deep state lying to him or falsifying stuff to get Trump and his team to say what they want, or what they want said. Same as they did when they convinced Trump to push the jab was a good thing or a win. I mean, that was, the vaccine rhetoric was another low point in Trump history, I would say. But Trump it's strange because Trump has good instincts, even if he's not like a philosopher king or a man who's going to explain, a man who's going to be like some sort of champion of principles or something like that. Mm-hmm. He has good instincts at a gut level, I think, for the most part. But both of those, the Epstein stuff and the vaccine stuff, colossal failures of gut level judgment. That is to say, I would hope that Trump's gut level judgment would prompt him to have questions about whatever this Epstein bullshit we just saw is. And I would have hoped that his gut level judgment would have led him to have questions about such a hastily developed vaccine rather than promote it. Now, to his credit, he didn't try to force it on everyone. He maintained the importance of choice. But yeah, I don't know. Is it a force of influence on Trump, or does he just sometimes have very bad instincts?
Well, the vaccine outcome was not as predictable as you'd think, in that, like, mostly speaking, when it comes to, all vaccines but the COVID vaccine, it was mostly like progressive areas that were the most hesitant. And there were all these tweets from leading liberals, influencers, TV hosts, etc., where it was to the effect of like, I would trust gas station sushi more than a Trump vaccine. And then there was like one day everything just flipped.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hell it was.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Lowbrow Mythicathy. I know I've asked you to pronounce that before, and he told me, and I can't do it. So I'm doing my best. This Palumbo character, a crawling desperate regard. His sickness withers in the light my dad imbued in me in a crumbling candle-lit studio, a studio apartment empty of material wealth, but replete with example. Very poetic. I assume you have some understanding of this.
Huh. I got the regard part.
Is that AI poetry? What are we doing?
It might have been.
Yeah.
No, I think he's just a poet. He's very talented.
Well, I appreciate that he represents how highly you are regarded, or that
That's all that matters.
that he recognizes that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan Allen Pinard. How do you trust the Trump administration to do anything in regard to the deep state from this point forward? I have a feeling this isn't over. Well, yeah, yes. How do you? This is the weight of this question. It's not just how do you trust the Trump administration, since they have been apparently been defeated by whatever it is that is putting up this show of this Epstein cover-up. How do you trust any future administration going forward? It's not just Trump at this point. It's both parties. It's seemingly everybody in D.C. or many of them, the most powerful people. Who, if not this guy in this administration, who are you going to send to D.C. to get you the truth and to be trustworthy? I don't have a great answer for that. Maybe D.C. is just not a trustworthy place. It's completely corrupted. There's nobody who can save it. And to the prior point on how big can a government get before it just no longer, or how big can a country get, I suppose, before it can no longer be functional in that way. I don't know. Maybe we're at that point. I don't know. Yeah, there is no good answer to that question.
I mean, what do we have in common in this country?
Well, anybody can come in whenever they want. That's what Zoran Mamdani told me.
That's great.
We all agree on that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, the whole idea of politics being this thing where, and most conservatives have this attitude, which I think is kind of naive, of like, or at least used to 10 years ago, of like, well, we all want the same thing in the end. We just have a different way of getting there. So we should all get along. And it's like, that works if you have the same morality or, moral compass, or it actually is true you want the same thing. But we have one side that cares about the country and the other side that wants to destroy it and chop kids' dicks off. And I just feel like there's a order of magnitude of difference there.
Well, and that something's got to give, you might say. Like when part of the country's like, I think this country's pretty cool. I was reading some polling on patriotism, and of course, one function of Democrats' patriotism is whether their person is in power or not. Generally speaking,
yes.
they're very patriotic.
For the right, it's like 95% constant, and then for the left, it was like 80. I think 9/11 like gave everyone a boost, but it's like less than 30%.
Well, now it's way down. Yeah, and some of that is a Trump function for sure, but it's down even compared to other Republican presidents. And I'll be interested to see if or when there's another Democrat in office, does that patriotism thing recover? Or have they...
And I wonder, too, because it always, like, it has been a secular kind of under the left, although it does bump up, like, when there's a Democrat, and they do import quite a lot of voters. So could it be that share of their voter base is a pull on it in some way? I mean, it's probably a single-digit pull, but that also could be contributing.
Omega Supreme with cheese. Watching Israel lead Trump by the nose, lead them into bombing Iran. Now the Epstein files being memory wiped. I'm like, hey, let's hear this grok out. Well, that was apparently a crazy time in internet history. I didn't see a lot of the screenshots, but I saw people talking about it yesterday. Anyway, I think we're all set. Anything else you want to say before we're out of here? And thank you, Mr. Omega Supreme with cheese. Nope, you're all set?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, sorry. I thought yeah.
All right. Well, we will call it there. Of course, thank you to my friend Frank from Quite Frankly for joining tonight. QuiteFrankly.tv if you want to find anything Quite Frankly. Shows live weeknights at 7 Eastern. Thanks to Matt Palumbo for sitting in. Thanks to our callers. Thanks to our emailers. Thanks to our live chatters and super chatters. Of course, thanks to producer Tim for his assistance. As always, if you need anything show-related, mattchristiansenmedia.com is where you find it. I'll be back on Sunday. Hope to see you then. Have a great night and a great week.